bullets is going to do anything? Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is going to save lives. Just like the extreme risk protection orders, which I can pull quotes from many of these folks who said, this will do nothing. This will not protect lives. This will take away our freedoms. It's time to start reporting that that is all bullshit. It does do something. It does make a difference. And to stand here and have to look in the eyes of parents who lost their little ones, shame on them. And shame on us if we don't get this done. So I have to tell you, I'm proud to stand with the people who are here. You're going to hear from advocates, you're going to hear from legislators who passed this legislation, and you're going to hear from someone who's been a partner in this for as long as I've known him, someone who has used the rule of law to try and keep people safer, someone who stands with the people of Minnesota, and especially on this issue of gun violence prevention, Attorney General Ellison.
Thank you, Governor. And Governor Walz, I do want to thank you for your leadership. There is no one thing you can do to solve this entire problem. What we need is we need to work together, and we need leadership from the top, and that means your leadership, Governor Walz. And so from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I thank you so much, because you and I stood in the same churches and in the same pews in the same places when we said goodbye to our dear friend Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark, and when we went to the tragic, heartbreaking funerals involving Fletcher and Harper, and we've got to bring it to an end, and your leadership is so critical, and I thank you for it. You know, at the Attorney General's office, we are trying to do our part to bring this, this tragic, unnecessary situation to an end. We do have civil authority that puts us in a position to hold people accountable when we can show that there's responsibility for this tragedy. Gun crime happens at the long chain of events. At the end of the event, you may have a shooter, but before that ever happens, you may well have somebody who made it all possible through their lack of attention to public safety. And it's important that perpetrators of gun crime are criminally prosecuted, but we can't let some companies off the hook either who have a role to play. So we're suing Glock right now for turning a blind eye and allowing their handguns to be easily converted into deadly automatic weapons. And we're going to hold them accountable in the courts of the state of Minnesota. And we're suing Fleet Farm for not doing enough to stop the sale of firearms to straw purchasers who let guns get into the hands of people who by law should not have them. And I look forward to working with you, Governor Walz, and our legislative leaders to get these dangerous weapons off the street and out of the hands of folks who shouldn't have them, to move forward a future with fewer funerals, fewer devastated communities, and fewer families torn apart. Your leadership is inspiring at this moment, and we're going to go get out there and save some lives. Thank you very much.
Kristen? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Walz, for bringing people together today around something that should unite us all, protecting children. My name is Kristen Neville. I'm a parent of 5 children that were inside of the church at Annunciation on August 27th. Before I start, I want to recognize the pain many are feeling after this past weekend. Our hearts are with Brown University and everyone who is impacted by the violence there. Events like that weigh heavily, especially on parents, caregivers, educators, first responders, healthcare workers, and faith communities. This weekend has also been especially difficult for the Annunciation community and our friends at Sandy Hook, who memorialized a tragedy that happened 13 years ago. What happened to us on August 27th is not something we will ever be over. The aftermath is still incredibly raw. What we learned and what too many communities learn is that gun violence does not respect geography, faith, or politics. It can happen to anyone, anywhere. That reality is why moments like today really matter. Protecting Minnesotans from gun violence is not about blame. It's about responsibility. It's about making sure families, schools, and communities have the tools and resources they need before tragedy happens, as well as the support they need afterward. We are encouraged by the focus of today's executive actions, including promoting extreme risk protection orders as a tool, educating families about safe firearm storage, Evaluating the financial cost of gun violence can help support policymakers in how gun violence may have substantial economic burden across the state, and creating a statewide safety council to bring people together across sectors. These steps affirm a shared truth. Addressing gun violence is not a partisan issue, but a human one, and meaningful progress requires respectful dialogue across differences. If we are going to protect our communities and children from ongoing trauma, everyone must be included in the conversation. Everyone should feel safe engaging in honest dialogue, even when conversations are hard. This all starts with us, with you, and with me. At Annunciation, we come with hope, grounded in faith, and a belief that renewal is possible. We come with courage to lean into difficult conversations and build bridges where they may not yet exist. And we come with love, centering the dignity and safety around every child. Our shared goal is simple. It's to build a future where every child can learn, play, and worship without fear. Thank you for taking the steps today that move us closer to that future, and for reminding us that when we work together, meaningful and lasting change is possible, and we will let Harper and Fletcher's light continue to help guide us forward. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bob Jacobson, and it is my honor to serve as the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. As we all know far too well, in the last year, Minnesota has experienced both mass violence and targeted violence. In the early morning hours of June 14th, State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette were shot, and House of Representatives Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were murdered through an act of politically targeted violence. On the morning of August 7th, two children, Fletcher Merkel and Harper Moisky, were fatally shot in the shooting that targeted school-aged children seated in church pews, praying at Annunciation Catholic Church in South Minneapolis. 26 of their classmates and 3 adults were also shot in the church that morning. There have been multiple other mass shootings in Minnesota over the past year, and we know that we are not alone. We have seen an increase in targeted violence and mass violence across this country, as evidenced by our recent shootings. Beyond those who have been physically lost or harmed in these incidents, we know these events tear at the fabric of who we are and affect entire communities. All these incidents, all of these lives that have been lost, and all of these lives that have been changed forever require us to do more to address that violence. We should do whatever we can to prevent any more of these senseless acts. The Statewide Safety Council, founded through today's orders, will focus on understanding mass and targeted violence, bringing in experts who will broaden the understanding of these events. This council will bring forward initial recommendations for swift action if there are immediate needs for the governor and the legislature to address. The council will then continue to focus on the topic and issue a full report within 1 year. Beyond simply bringing a report of understanding, I expect that council will bring forward actionable steps to implement a statewide strategy to address mass violence and targeted violence. This will be a multidisciplinary approach that involves more than law enforcement. It simply must if it is to be effective. And it is part of my responsibility to bring forward solutions to keep Minnesota safe. Many of these incidents have happened on my watch. So truly, it is also all of our responsibilities. The Department of Public Safety and the state cannot successfully address the violence alone. We care about our fellow Minnesotans. We care about the state's residents, businesses, and visitors. And we care about all those who call Minnesota home. I am thankful that the governor is bringing together this team to help us keep people safe. And in the aftermath of these violent acts such as we have experienced, in the midst of sorrow and pain, people often call for not only thoughts and prayers, but they call for action. And this is one example of an action that can make a difference. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Arnold.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Grace Arnold, and I'm the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Commerce, which oversees insurance in the state. This executive order directs Commerce to ask insurance companies for policy and claims data involving firearms and to report on the findings with potential changes to state law. We don't currently know how firearm-related injury or damage contributes to the cost of insurance. So this insurance data will reveal patterns that may have an impact on premiums or on the insurance market as a whole, including the amount of injuries and property damage resulting from accidental firearm discharges, how often firearms are involved in property theft claims, whether certain firearm storage practices result in more insurance claims, and then geographic, demographic, or housing-related risk patterns. This data may also help quantify the financial cost of gun-related harm, including property damage, liability claims, and wrongful death settlements. If we can identify risk factors, we can make prevention actionable and recommend changes to state law. We'll have a public report so that Minnesotans can be informed of the risks, and it may encourage insurers and property owners to help adopt better practices. And I'm really happy to be a part of this. I'll turn it over to Senator Mohammed.
I want to thank Governor Walz for taking these actions, but I would be lying if I didn't say I wish we didn't have to do this today. We could already be doing so much more to keep people safe. Minnesotans know that, and they're angry we haven't, and so am I. After the Annunciation shooting, Governor Walz, a vocal group of legislators, and most importantly, parents and students across the state said that we need to act on gun violence prevention, and the time is now. Since then, one side of this debate has stalled, changed the subject, or stayed silent, hoping it would go away. It didn't. The horrific violence this weekend in Australia, a country that passed legislation to outlaw assault rifles, was the first mass shooting there in 28 years. And here, the attack on the Brown campus was the 389th mass shooting in America just this year. Maybe some of you saw that statistic, 389. But did you know that there were 4 more mass shootings events since then? I read a story yesterday that mentioned these executive orders. And the story said the details were not public. Yet the gun lobby had said that the orders are unconstitutional and a power grab. Let me repeat that. The announcement was not made. The gun lobby did not know what the announcement was and was already saying, whatever it is, it's unconstitutional. That's our opposition on this issue. It's absurd and should be treated as such. The Republicans need to choose if they are a part of that opposition or if they can be partners. Minnesotans are demanding that we make an honest effort and declare where we stand on weapons of war. And in the Senate next year, we will.
Yes.
So I, Chair Latz, Leader Murphy, we welcome the support and input of everyone who wants to help make that legislation and that effort as successful and as strong as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Good afternoon. I am Representative Emma Greenman, and along with my colleague, Senator Zainab Mohammed, we have the privilege of representing the South Minneapolis district that Annunciation and many of the families at Annunciation call home. And I want to thank the governor and his public safety leadership team for using the executive power they have to address this national epidemic of gun violence here in Minnesota. This is an important step that builds on the foundations that Governor Walz described that we passed together in a DFL trifecta, strengthening red flag laws. This promotes safe storage and firearms and ensures that Minnesotans know the true cost of gun violence in our state. It's only a first step, but it is an important one. And I'm grateful to join the governor, the attorney general, my legislative colleagues in walking this path for change with the Minnesota families that are victims and survivors of gun violence. In my community at Annunciation, in my House Caucus family, and in communities around the state, we know firsthand the damage that gun violence can have. And on a personal note, to the Annunciation families in my community, to the parents and the kids and the staff who in your grief have found determination and courage. I am so inspired and proud of you. You join a long line of brave survivors and victims of gun violence who continue to raise their voice. You share your stories to end this epidemic that took Harper and Fletcher and have taken far too many beloved children and community members from their families and their neighborhoods. This is how we make powerful change together. And you are not alone. Communities across Minnesota are demanding that we take action to keep our kids safe and get these weapons of war off our streets. Banning these weapons of war, the assault weapons and the high-capacity magazines that have inflicted so much harm in our community and so many others will take legislative action. And it is action we must take. And the thing is, the public is with us. As the governor said, 70% of Minnesotans support banning assault weapons. And the polls reflect what we are all hearing in our districts across the state, in town halls, in community conversations, and in emotional calls and emails we are getting individually from voters across the state. Do something now. The public is with us. So the question for every lawmaker is whether we are with them. Standing here today with Governor Walz, our DFL leadership, and colleagues in the House and the Senate, we are saying actions, not just words, but actions, that we are here with you and in this work with you. And I want to end with a reminder that our kids are watching and they are taking action. 10 days after the Annunciation tragedy, I joined middle schoolers and high schoolers from my community with Students Demand Action. We have a few here, from Justice Page and Washburn, who walked out of school with thousands of other students across the state to demand that we take action to get these weapons off our streets. They had one simple message to lawmakers and to the adults in their lives: choose us over guns. This is not a hard choice. The executive action today is about choosing the safety of our kids over the guns that endanger them. The legislative action we must take to ban these weapons of war is about choosing our kids over the dangerous guns that have inflicted so much harm at Annunciation and in communities around the state and the country. Our kids are counting on us to choose them and their future. And that today is what we are doing, and that is what we must do when we go back into session. Thank you. And I will hand it over to Maggie Emery.
Good afternoon. My name is Maggie Emery, and I'm the Executive Director of Protect Minnesota, which is the only state-based, statewide gun violence prevention organization here in Minnesota. And today we are taking a step towards safety and a step towards common sense, a step towards a Minnesota where our children can go to school without fear, without the need to walk out to protect themselves, where our neighbors can live without tragedy, and our communities can thrive without the constant presence and shadow of gun violence. We know that this work is long and it's hard, and the losses of the past days, the past weeks, this year, and so many years before weigh heavily on all of us. It can feel hopeless, but history and evidence and research show us that common sense gun reforms work. They prevent violence, they save lives. We can reduce shootings, we can prevent unnecessary deaths, and we can protect our families. And that's what these executive orders today will do. This isn't about politics, it's about people. Today, Minnesota is choosing action over despair. Today, we say we're not accepting gun violence as inevitable because it's not. We will take the steps we can to save lives, and we will keep stepping forward and doing more until this nightmare ends. Hope is not passive. Hope is action. Today, together, we're choosing hope. Thank you to the governor. I'm going to turn it back over to him.
Well, thank you to all the speakers. I'll sign these, then we will all take some questions, but I would just say this to Minnesotans. These actions today don't limit your freedoms at all. Being shot dead in your school certainly does. We're taking the action, as you heard from the speakers here. Attorney General Ellison's right. There's no one fix to this, but there are certainly things that we know. There are certain things we've learned globally that make a difference, and these two actions will be another step in that direction. I'll sign them. We'll take some questions. I would just note that 70% of the public is asking strongly for us to move on these assault weapons. And just to be absolutely clear, I could sign them as simply as I did those, and it would be done in Minnesota. That's what we need to do. We'd be glad to take some questions.
Governor, today the Republican Party chair already put out a statement saying the executive orders are a clear admission of weakness on your part. A week ago, you promised a special session, but the effort collapsed because you couldn't get votes in your own party.
And you're surprised by that, Mary? That statement? What a condemnation. What a weak, horrible thing. Come and say it in front of these parents. Next. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Esme. And questions regarding educational materials for children and age appropriate. One of the mandates and requirements of this executive order and the council statewide safety committee that I'll be leading will be to help prepare materials that would be worthwhile to share with the Department of Education. Commissioner Jett, who is also here, will ensure that as those materials are prepared and ready to go, that they can help to educate and share with families and students and schools all around the state of Minnesota. So we know that we need to get to children early, educate, and the best way for us to do that from public safety is through our partners at the Minnesota Department of Education. And I'm honored to work with Commissioner Jett to be able to do that.
Could I go, I'm just going back one. Mary, could you, for the record, state the name of the individual who decided to distract from this as we're talking about important things? Yeah, what was his name? What's his name? Okay. And that was his first thought in the midst of this with parents and Minnesotans asking us. Okay. Make sure you spell his name right when you get it in there so that Minnesotans know exactly who's standing between them and doing this common sense.
Governor, a question on the language on Order 2513. You said something along the lines of lays the groundwork to require insurance companies. Is there any additional legislative action that will be needed to enforce that? How's that going to work?
Commissioner, I don't believe so. No, as we control. Look, and I think it's fascinating, and Senator Mohammed, I really appreciate you bringing that up, that before these were even public, they went ahead and said that, because that's what they say about everything. They didn't know that I would come in here and, everybody gets dogs and ponies, and that's, they just say it. Keep in mind what we're asking here is every one of you who bought homeowners insurance, if you've got a dog, if you've got a trampoline, if you've got a swimming pool, It impacts your rates, and impacts all our rates, because the chance of an accident happening with those three increases because of it, and the opportunity is there. We have been forbidden for 30 years to gather data around what it owns to have a firearm. So if you're going to have one and you're not going to lock it up, why are we all paying for it? You can pay for it. You can pay for the insurance costs that go up there, and this is absolutely outrageous. But the idea that, that they would call that unconstitutional, pay your fair share. Pay your fair share. And the insurance companies, they need to let us know what the economic impact is. We know what the economic impact is. We know what the emotional impact is. Now we can quantify it.
Is that to say that there's existing language to allow the administration to enforce sort of requiring the insurance companies to provide that?
We can give a little bit from the insurance commissioner.
I mean, the short answer is yes. We have statutory authority to require insurance companies to provide us information about this, just like we have statutory we get information from insurance companies to inform public policy, and this is one of those.
House and Senate leaders discuss how close you are in the votes?
Here?
It's the wrong question, Eric Escala. The question is, how many Republicans are going to join us?
But the question, Senator Murphy or Representative Stevenson, I mean, you can't do this with just Democratic votes, correct? You need, you don't have all your DSL votes, you need Republican votes, right?
You know, the House is tied 67-67. The Republican leadership has made very clear that there isn't one vote in their caucus for getting weapons of war off the street. Without even one vote, there is no way to pass this into law. I think that was Leader Murphy's point, that it's the wrong question. The Democratic Party is united in this respect. The Republicans are equally united in saying that they won't allow it to happen. They won't even allow a vote on the floor. And that is where the change needs to happen inside the Republican caucuses.
Governor, or perhaps Commissioner Arnold, what's the timeline on gathering the data on the cost of gun violence? When are we going to see that?
So the executive order lays out that we'll have the data call sort of public by February and then a report by October of next year. These things take a little bit of time to get the right data, so we'll be working with insurance companies to collect that, analyze it, and then have a report.
The report will be public October next year?
Yep. Yep.
Watch them squawk. And I fully expect, this is what we'll see, I'm sure we will see, as we're seeing in every single agency in the federal government, an attack on Minnesota. I would fully expect, probably as soon as this afternoon, an attack by them on the unconstitutional nature of doing this, because it's what they do. Minnesota is coming to carve a path here, especially on this gathering of data, especially making this about an insurance issue and the cost to it. And then I think all of you are making the connections here, connecting it back to the manufacturers who are flooding the streets with these cheap weapons of war to try and get them out to make a profit. We'll make sure that there's an accountability around that.
Governor, the governor's packet said the 2015 law actually limits what emergency powers that you can utilize in regards to guns.
Sue me.
Is that true?
No. No. Does anybody see a pattern of obstruction here? Has any of those statements expressed condolences to the family of Annunciation? We understand what you're trying to do. We disagree with you. These folks aren't political. I don't know their political ideology. And you heard that from them. They are trying their best to walk both sides of this. It's my responsibility to tell where the story's at on this. That's their first response to this with people, and that's their first response after mass shootings this weekend. That's their first response to it. I don't know. I hope this group is responsible as a profession to not lose the plot here.
When was the last time legislative leaders met to discuss this topic? Was it those special session negotiations back in September?
Yeah. That was, and when they said, and Leader Stevenson said it, they said no. Again, I don't know how to make this any easier to all of you. I get it. They don't agree with this. That's fair. That's a fair point to be in. But people are begging us to put something forward. If they're right, put it forward and have it fail. I didn't ask them. They can vote their own conscience. I don't care on that part of it. I don't understand why this is so difficult to understand. This could move forward. We could have this. you wouldn't be trying to nitpick one or two Democrats when you have 100+ Republicans, and we're just asking for one to step forward and do the right thing on this. And I don't know. I don't know what to say if you're one of those suburban legislators. It's 78%. Try it out in Rochester, Minnesota. Those are folks that operate on people down there. They would know.
Governor, I do want to circle back to the timing of this. With this special session talk that you've had going on for so long with both Republicans and Democrats, why now with these executive orders?
Yeah, because the families are here. They're continuing to talk to me. I'm hearing it constantly. There's frustration, and I absorb this. It's my responsibility to do all I can to move it. But these folks are frustrated with me that it's not happening too, and I'm responding to them. They said, Governor, we need you to, okay, that's what we're supposed to do. I will do what I can do. We did a lot of research on these. It's taken a while to make sure we were locked in on what we were able to get. But we'll continue to do more. But it's the frustration out of parents. They expect action. They expect us to do things, and we got here. Yeah. It could happen today. I'm just going to say again, if one person woke up today in the Republican caucus and said, you know, we should vote on this, at least let the public have their vote. I'm going to vote no, I don't think it's good, but we should just let the public, it's an important issue. These shootings are happening. We've had 2 schools closed today. We have trauma across our state in these things. So yeah, I would argue it could happen today. We could do this. These folks would put us into session. They would follow the rules. I don't know, 3 days, something. We could get in, get out, see how it worked. But yeah, but I think you all know the answer. They're not going to do anything. They are not going to do anything. And that's the way the democracy works. And then next November, the people decide if they want something done on it or not.
Senator, can I circle back and have you respond to that as well as what your caucus could vote for or could support in the upcoming session on the issue of gun control not addressed?
You know, Senator Latz and Senator Mohammed are both here. They held hearings after the Annunciation shooting. My colleagues brought forward a number of proposals. The Republicans brought 0 proposals to those hearings. Senator Latz and Senator Mohammed are working with our caucus on a variety of issues that we will bring forward, and I expect that there will be a vote. And I can let either of them get into more detail if you'd like, but we're preparing. Thank you.
All right, thanks, folks. Thank you all.